On today's podcast, we're going to learn how to break out of our own prison. We're going to talk to our guest, Marc Hall, about finding our hidden purpose, how to know when you've reached your turning point, and how to not judge ourselves and others.
We all face challenges, crucibles in life that make us or break us. What matters is how we respond to such roadblocks. That's really what defines us. Through inspirational stories from all walks of life, this podcast will provide you with techniques to overcome and grow from life's most challenging experiences.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mary Lee Aitenhan, coming to you live from the Dividend Studios in Brentwood, Tennessee for my podcast, Crucible. You can find me at aitenhanhealthcoaching.com. And if you like this podcast, please like, subscribe, and share. Joining us to share today as my guest on Crucible, to share his inspirational story of triumph and redemption, is my guest, Marc Hall, who spent 14 months in prison to turn his life around. He became an entrepreneur with his own retail denim company, Marc Nelson Denim. So welcome, Marc. We're glad to have you here.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Mary Lee. I appreciate you for having me. It's exciting to be here. Yes.
Yeah. Tell us more about yourself.
Well, I'm a little country boy down from Knoxville, Tennessee, and I was born and raised here in Knoxville. Grew up in East Knoxville, and if you're from the Knoxville area, you are familiar with the Levi's plant, and we've all heard of the Levi's brand, and so it was very relevant here in the East Knoxville community. Either you worked there or a family member worked there growing up. So I own Marc Nelson Denim, and that's how I actually got into the denim business. Awesome. We've been in business 11 years. I have two beautiful daughters. I have one 20-year-old who goes to the University of Richmond, Virginia, and I have a beautiful 6-year-old. She just turned 6, as a matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago, and she lives here with me in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Awesome. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. So let's just dive into your Crucible, and let's just hear where it started and where it's taking you. Obviously, it's your success, and I want to hear all about that transition.
Absolutely. I'd love to share it. So I have a company called Marc Nelson Denim, and we've been in business 11 years, going on 12 now. And when we started that business here in Knoxville 11 years ago, I was actually living in Los Angeles, California. Actually, my mom taught me to sew. I had 2 brothers and a sister, and both my oldest brother and my younger brother were about 150 pounds heavier than me. And we'd go outside and play, and I'd always end up with something broken, cut, scarred, stitches needed. And she said, "You stay in the house with me, and I will teach you to sew." And so she did. And so I took that, and I took tailoring at Austin East at the time, my freshman and sophomore year. And then I actually ended up turning that into, a career and a passion. And so started Marc Nelson Denim after about 11 years after I got out of high school, came back to Knoxville and found a space here. And that's how we started Marc Nelson Denim. We were in business about 4 or 5 years and had huge success, was in about 50 boutiques and department stores. And then the IRS came in, guns a-blazing at about that 4-year point. And I actually had to serve 14 months in prison. They took 28 properties and $4 million from me. But that was actually, it seemed like the world was coming to an end at the time, but it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. In that prison sentence, about 2 weeks into it, I tore my Achilles, and that's when me and God had our argument. And
okay, I've had a few of those.
Yeah, it's when me and God had our argument, and I asked God. I said, "How could you, betray me? How could you let this happen to me?" Yeah. And He quickly responded, "If it were not for me, you wouldn't be here. You'd be dead." And He replayed a lot of the situations I had ran an illegal gambling operation, and that's how I ended up in prison. And he showed me all the times that people had attempted to rob me, and I, kind of had run-ins with the wrong people, and he brought me through that. So he said, if it were not for me, you would not be here. And from that moment on, I realized that I was meant to do something a little more than run a gambling operation, and that I had the ability, with God's help, love, to do business legally and be better than what I was at the time.
That's awesome.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
What a turning point. And within the 14 months, was that towards the beginning of your time, or in the middle, or after you tore your Achilles? So about
I tore my Achilles 2 weeks into going into prison. So it was at the very beginning, literally, like I was there a few days. And then that's when I was like, because before then I said, I'm going to get through this 14 months, go back home, and I'll go back to, running a gambling operation, whatever. And he, I guess he heard my thoughts. And then he quickly said, okay, well, if you're president enough, let me show you what else I can give to you. And so I was listening loud and clear then. And so, it was 2 weeks into it. And I got into a program called RDOT in the federal prison, which actually allowed me to get out in 14 months. Otherwise, I would have been spending 36 months in prison. And I'm sorry. 36 months in prison. But I made it through the program, which was a 10-month program. And I was able to get out and get back to my family. At the time I self-surrendered, my youngest daughter was 4 months old, and my oldest daughter was entering her freshman year of high school. So, that was a deal in itself. So,
wow.
Yeah. So got home in 14 months and got back to my business. And wow, it was a huge change. I changed my business altogether. Actually, before we were wholesaling and doing e-commerce, we weren't doing a lot of retailing. And so we had our brick and mortar here, and I called clients, and surprisingly enough, I got the support. And so we just do direct to consumer now. We don't do any wholesaling. And my business this past year, we did the highest grossing number even before I got in trouble. So we are actually just doing really well, and I'm very grateful.
Oh, that's beautiful. So tell me more about the RDAP program. What does that stand for, and what is kind of the purpose of the program?
It's a cognitive, like, reprogramming program. And so basically, in order to get into RDAP, you would have to have had some alcohol or drug issues. And before I went to prison, I did experimented in both drugs and alcohol. And so the goal of RDAP is to put individuals in the program, and you're in one dormitory. So you've got about 300 guys that are in a dormitory. And so you go to, we do an AA class. We do basically a meeting is what we call it, the first thing in the morning. And the meeting is to kind of bring attention to other members or other individuals that were in the RDOT program, things that they've done. So you had to kind of call them out on it, and you call them out on it in a group. Yeah. And so that was really tough. That's was
tough. That's harsh accountability.
It is. And there you go. That's exactly right. So we were there to be accountability partners for one another. And you could literally get to the 10-month part of the RDOT program and get put out. So at any given time, you're not guaranteed to get through just because they let you in. That means you make it through. And so that made it really, really tough. And so it was stressful. Wow. But it did. It helped me. It taught me to hold myself accountable, and not to blame things on others that I'm responsible for, to accept responsibility. Because when I entered that program, I was like, well, they were unfair to me about this, and I shouldn't be in prison, and da da da. But in reality, I made the choice to run an illegal gambling operation. And so, that was part of it. You get in trouble. I knew that it was the potential of going to prison, and I did. And here we are. So, so it taught me a lot.
Well, amazingly enough, I just sent a video. So I'm a health coach to all of my clients yesterday that was all about making this program sustainable because, it's easy to lose the weight, but it's hard to keep it off because people basically view it as a diet. It's meant to be a lifestyle. And my whole point of my video was you've got to take accountability for your decisions and your choices. Mm-hmm. And whether, in this case, it's food or being morbidly obese or just trying to lose weight or whatever, but it just bleeds into every single part of your life, with your family, it's mental, it's physical. There's the spiritual aspect as well. And, God holding you accountable through this program, I'm sure was not easy. I don't go that far with my clients, but, my point was the same that, hey, you make these choices and you've got to live up to that and you've got to own it basically. And, because you'll never be able to sustain your weight or healthiness.
Health,
and it was
right.
It was all about having a great, a beautiful life. So I really applaud you for that. That's
I just can't help to touch more on, accountability, as you said before. I think a lot of, and this is just my belief, again, I think a lot of people go through life not holding themselves accountable, making a decision. Oh, I'm going to drink all night. And then the next day, I've got a hangover. I can't believe this is, you know what I mean? Like you said, from food to, I'm going to drive my car 100 miles an hour and you wreck and kill somebody. And then you're going, I can't believe that happened to me. Well, each decision in our lives, there's an outcome and we have, obviously there's some that we absolutely don't control. You don't control a tornado or, a plane falling out of the sky on you, but the decisions that you can make and control are so important to, like you said, a healthy, sustainable lifestyle. Because the things that you can control, you want to have control over those.
Exactly.
And we also learn that I don't control, or I can't let control what the way others feel about me. You know what I mean? Affect how I feel about myself. You know what I mean? If you don't like me, that's if you're having a bad day, I don't have to let you having a bad day turn my day into a bad day. It's my outlook on life. So that it benefit me quite a bit. So we have it.
Yeah. I think that should be a mandatory class for about everybody in the United States, honestly. So, because we are in a culture that, you just brush it off and you blame whatever. Yeah. I think that's human nature as well. Yeah. You don't want to look in the mirror and really say, that's pretty ugly.
I screwed that up, right? It's like, it's me.
Right
me.
there.
It's me. Yes. And that's real.
I know. And that hurts and it's ugly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So
risk reward.
Yeah, exactly. So, it sounds like you recognized your hidden truth, which is to me that redemptive quality of, controlling being accountable and controlling the things that you can control, and then not allowing others that maybe weren't as far along in the process as you, to be able to control them. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm guessing, but to me, that sounds like what a redemptive quality to get through this. Can you add to that or?
Absolutely. No, what you said it. That argument that I had with God was one is that, what's next? What are you changing? So my redemptive truth is that I believe that I've been put here to help others recognize and that, you don't have to do it that way. You could be successful with actually opening a business or just having a job, that being a teacher or being a bus driver, or again, being an entrepreneur and opening your own business. You can be a superstar by being that. You don't have to be a drug dealer. You don't have to be this guy that's, running an illegal gambling operation. And as you said, and I was very fortunate enough, my grandparents were amazing, and they didn't raise me to be in the streets. You know what I mean? They didn't raise me they actually raised me to be a Christian. And so I don't have any excuse. I just saw the glam and the glitter of that lifestyle and then attach myself to it. And at the end of the day, most of everything that I gained from that was taken away from me. And so to recognize that, I guess you call it delayed reaction, the delayed gratification. Delayed gratification is the things that you build by doing it the right way are going to stay there. You know what I mean? And you don't have to look over your back and worry about whether it's somebody robbing you and taking it from you, or again, the police or coming in and taking it from you. You built a stable, a base ground, a ground on solid, rock, you know what I mean? And not something that again, can be taken from you anytime. And another thing is I have children. So it's really important to me in this life now that my children look at me and go, my dad's a good man. He's a good guy, and not someone that's out here, just, taking advantage of people and doing it the wrong way. So, I want to leave a legacy of, a good thought process, and not something that, man, this guy, I don't know, what he did, but he didn't do it the right way.
Yeah, exactly. And once again, it's that long road, that arc of your whole entire life of being a great dad and a great example, and also being able to say to them, hey, I've messed up, but learn from what I did and don't do it.
That's right. Yes. If you can learn from my mistakes, don't you make the same mistakes. And so, that is absolutely right. And like you said too, there is redemption. God is forgiving God. You know what I mean? And so we've all made mistakes. And so he loves us all, but God is a forgiving God, but you can redeem yourself no matter how long or how lost you feel like you are. There's always that, you can do it now. The God, if you ask for forgiveness, pray, and just start over right now. There doesn't have to be, I think a lot of us, and one of the excuses that I used, Mary Lee, was, well, I've come this far, or, like now, here I am now. So, I got to finish doing what I'm doing, or, tomorrow, you keep putting things off. And so, it's not too late. It's never too late. We're as long as you still living, you can change your life at any given time. It's never too late.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love that. And that is the God's honest truth, right? What can we share with our listeners about not judging people? Because I feel like this is one of the things I deal with people that are, largely overweight. They're judged by their exterior. And of course, that comes into gender, race, color, creed, all of it. We have so many labels now and boxes for people, which drives me nuts, because I just think people need to be loved for who they are, But I would just like to hear from you, what can we do so that people are not judged, from their exterior, or how fortunate you were to be able to build your business on the consumer side and your customers came to you, and I'm assuming they didn't look at you and judge you and go, well, you had to serve time in prison.
Convicted felon, but I still get that. That's interesting.
Do you really?
I still get that. I was, and I was asked to be on a board, and I've been on several boards, but during the process, one of the current board members brought up the fact that didn't this guy go to prison and serve time and, have a run in with the IRS, whatever. And the funny part about it is that the nonprofit is a nonprofit that helps convicted felons. So,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
so why,
So who
I
better
think
not to talk to that?
to
Yeah.
talk to and be an
Yeah.
example of. And so, and that was brought up, and that was like, I thought this person would be a good addition. But it's funny. I remind myself often when I was running the illegal gambling operation and making a ton of money, I found myself judging people. I'd see a person
Hmm.
with a spare tire or a window busted out and had plastic over it. And I would say, why don't they go get that fixed? Why don't they just go
Fixed.
get that
Yeah.
fixed? Right. I can't believe they're not going to get that fixed. And then when I got home from prison, I was like, wow, if I caught a flat tire, I got my window busted right now, I'd have plastic. You know what I mean? I'd be on a spare.
I'd
So
be that person.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be that person. So it was very humbling to have to go through that. And I didn't grow up with, means. My family, my mother was on food stamps. And so there was three boys and a girl. And so it wasn't until I got out of my household that I actually started making some money and
Sure.
finding some success. But so the answer to your question is, for me, the going to prison and being knocked down and having to restart humbled me. And
Oh, yeah.
I pray about, wow, I thank God that, wow, you never know where you can find yourself. And so burning bridges are judging somebody and what caused that person. Again, you can't walk a mile, or you can't put yourself in other
Right.
people's shoes. How did they get there? You don't know if they've had addiction, or, you could lose a job and with the coronavirus and be out of work and then find yourself homeless. There could be
Yeah.
any scenario. So again, and one of the things I find I pride myself off in this day and time is just talking to people. Because
That's
generally,
great.
if you listen to a person and hear their story, then
Right.
most people don't want to be in the situation that they're in, whether it's mental illness, whether like you said, a bad situation, they had a relative, a parent, a spouse died, that they went to a spiral of whether it was drinking or drugs or eating. That's again
Yeah.
something that made them comfortable in that time,
Right.
and then that became an addiction. And then it just, turned into something else. So yeah, just talking to people, I would say, before you judge, if you feel like you are pointing your finger or wondering why, what coulda, shoulda, woulda, just talk to a person and figure out, hey, what's their story, and try to help them. Be a voice of listening and not a voice of hate or judgment.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. And that just glows from your spirit, from your face. I just love that. I really do.
Well,
I
thank
wish
you.
more people, we're like that. And I do believe that some people are trying, to be more inclusive.
Right.
That's something that I just grew up with, just not tolerating people that, I had to, I taught public schools. So I had kids from all walks of life, and they were all loved and welcomed, and like you said, once you got to know their backstory, it was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I was like, well, no wonder this kid is, this way, because he didn't stand a chance,
He didn't have somebody showing him a better way. He probably
Right.
had to raise himself.
Nothing.
The fact that he was at school is a lot. You know what I mean? The fact that he showed up to school,
Yes.
and a lot of times
Yeah.
kids in broken homes, they show up to school so they can eat lunch. You know what I mean? There's
Right.
there's lunch, or and there's that someone that, like a school teacher that shows them that they actually care for them. So yeah, you can't point a finger, because you never know how or why that person. And that's interesting that we don't all take the time to actually think through that, and just why most people don't choose to be in a negative situation. It's just that's
Right.
where they ended up at, and they don't know any better. You know what I mean? Once you get in a
Yeah.
rut, or
Yeah.
even in an abusive relationship, it's your mind
Yeah.
plays tricks on you after a while, and you're like, oh, this person loves me, and you feel more sorry for the person. You think you're at fault because you did something wrong, when in the reality. So yeah, absolutely. You can't, until you know a person's story, you cannot point fingers. Just love.
Yeah.
We just should
Yeah.
love.
I
Just love.
absolutely.
If you
I
start
love
with love,
it.
it's all good. If your first
I
thought is
know.
I'm going to show this person some love. It's all good. It is. It's all
Yeah,
good.
that's beautiful. That's really beautiful. Well, one of the things I wanted to go back to was your mom teaching you how to sew.
Yes, ma'am.
Because my mom was a seamstress. All of her sisters were seamstress. And that was one of the things that I insisted my children learn as well, was how, and my son
Oh, wow.
sewed, and he's, I don't think he'd be embarrassed by this, but he entered a pillow, in the 4-H club, through 4-H club, and he won a purple ribbon. And my daughter sewed, she modeled her clothing.
Right.
And, this was to me a life skill that I wanted my kids to have. Well, now both of them have used them in their professions, and my daughter's an occupational therapist, but she makes up the craziest gadgets to help people, and she can sew them together.
Oh,
and then
awesome.
my son works in production here in Nashville, and he's come up with, the same thing, crazy contraptions to solve a problem of whatever. And they both have sewing machines. It's just great. So I love that. And that's truly a skill that has just disappeared.
Oh, it's a lost art now.
It is a lost art.
Yeah, it's so hard. And we, for production here in Knoxville, for years we've tried to find a team of people to sew, and it's just almost impossible. It really is. So it's definitely a lost art, and I think that's really cool that you taught your kids how to sew, because it is.
Yeah.
It definitely comes in handy, even if it's just sewing a button on. You know what I mean? But
Exactly. Yeah.
really handy. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, that's very cool. So, well, I sure appreciate your time today, and especially with all of your college kids on spring break, and and you manning your shop,
Yeah.
and give my love to Vernon. I love Vernon. He's just such a great guy. And when you see him, you give him a hug for me, because I only get to see him, 3 or 4 times a year. But
all right then. Well, thank you for having me again on your show, and I wish you continued success, and you have a wonderful day. And when I'm in Nashville, I will look you up, Mary Lee.
Absolutely.
Right.
We'll take you out. You bet.
Right.
That'd be great.